Courage and honor, cousin.
Into the fires of battle, unto the anvil of war.
Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I'm Zekthar.
And I'm Yuxin.
And we are the chroniclers of all that was, and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires, and today we'll be discussing the most recent events of the Imperium, the Indominus Crusade. And this week, we're taking a little bit of time to discuss those new guys on the block, the Primaris Space Marines. Yuxin, if you wouldn't mind.
Certainly. Well, the Primaris Space Marines are a new breed of transhuman warriors, developed across the span of 10,000 standard years by my favorite person in the world, Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Call. Their creation was initiated on Mars on the order of Primarch Robute Gilliman, way back in the day after the second founding in the early 31st millennium. The Primaris Space Marines are bigger than their cousins, standing from 8 to nearly 10 feet tall in their armor in some cases, as opposed to the firstborn, which are on average 7 to 9 feet tall. They're also more resilient, physically more powerful, and possess faster reaction times than their original Astartes counterparts, now often referred to as the Firstborn. Primaris Space Marines are also implanted with 22 rather than 19 gene seed organs, and their gene seed is more resistant to mutation than that of their predecessors. These organs enhance their physiology to an even greater degree than the Firstborn, making them yet stronger and tougher.
And what might those new organs be? Actually, better yet, what were the original 19? There's a lot of them. We haven't talked about them forever.
I don't think we have time for that.
Well, okay. How about we try a speed run?
Okay, because last time we took up the majority of the episode, and the episode was like, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours?
I think it was actually an hour. But if you guys want to know more about that anyways, we have a link attached to it anyways on YouTube. But for the rest of you guys, it's called Becoming a Space Wolf, which we did all the way back in May of 2023. But are you ready to go?
Sure.
Okay. So the first one is called the Second Heart, also known as the Maintainer.
The second heart for turning up the beat.
Number 2 is the Osmodula, also known as the Iron Heart.
Growth hormones and steel added to the bones for good measure.
The third one is called the Biscopia, also known as the Forge of Strength.
Herculean strength and physique. Captain America chugging it.
I don't know if I can pronounce this one. The Hemastamen. The
Hemastamen?
How would you pronounce that there, Yuxin?
Hemastamen.
Okay. It's also known as the Blood Maker. I can say that at least.
Yeah. More oxygen to the blood, must go faster, longer.
The Laraman's Organ, also known as the Healer.
I am the Wolverine, aka Super Healing.
Yeah.
Deadpool. You know, whatever.
Or Deadpool. Yeah. The Catalepsian Node, also known as the Unsleeping.
Caffeine on Jedi level. Honestly, Zekthar. This one makes me feel tired. In fact, the longest any Space Marine has ever been on active combat duty without rest is 328 hours, achieved by a squad of Crimson Fist's kill team during the battle against the Orcs for Rin's World. Which kind of makes sense, since their plan was pretty screwed over at that point.
Jiminy Christmas, that's terrible. He was awake for almost 14 days. 14 days without sleep? Oh, okay. Anyways. Number 7 is called the Priminor, or also the Neutralizer.
I can eat anything or drink anything. Unfortunately, nothing gets you drunk other than pale light wine, and of course, Space Wolf Fenrisian Ale.
Ironically, the Fenrisian Ale will kill anybody other than a Space Marine. And anyways, number 8, the Omophagia. I think that's how you pronounce it. Also known as the Remembrancer.
Gather knowledge of the dead by eating the dead. Crute eat your heart out.
Well, sounds like a Space Marine would do that. But the multi-lung. Ah, that's an easy one to say. Also known as the imbiber.
It's a third lung. Breathe easy, breathe often.
Number 10 is the okay, I think it's the oculobe, also known as the Eye of Vengeance.
Hawkeye.
Really? That's it?
That's it.
Okay, moving on. Number 11 is the Lyman's Ear, also known as the Sentinel.
This gene seed organ implant renders a Space Marine immune to dizziness and motion-induced nausea. Enables Astartes to consciously filter out white noise or resist other sonic attacks.
Okay. Next, number 12 is called Susan Membrane, also known as the Hibernator.
Be the bear. Be the bear. Allows our Space Marines to hibernate and heal at an accelerated rate.
Okay. It's called Susan. Interesting. The 13 is...
Or it's supposed to be sus. And...
I think it's more entertaining if it's called the Susan Membrane. Anyways, the 13th is called the melanochrome. The melanochrome? Okay.
Hardens
What
the
does that
skin
one do?
against solar and radiant damage.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool. Number 14 is the lytic kidney, also known as the purifier.
More stuff to make sure Space Boy can't get drunk. But of course, the Space Wolves have found a way around that.
True. They actually have different fermentation of Fenrisian ale. What was the one that you found? It was, what, Crazy Mac or...
Mad Jack.
Mad Jack, right, Mad Jack.
Much different from their Mjord? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Nord is another one that they do. Yep. All of which is Fenrisian ale. But... number 15 is the Neuroglottis, also known as the Devourer.
This is a weird one. You can tell what something was by its taste or smell. The smell I get better for tracking. The taste, on the other hand, is just weird. What are we hunting? Oh, well, let me go to the toilet and scoop out some of this crap.
Number 16 is the Mucranoid, also known as the Weaver.
Another defense for the skin against the elements. But this one even can harden to defeat the coldness of space.
It's actually kind of cool, if I recall right anyways. It kind of weaves its way around a person, and then they're like in this like little like, I don't know, catacomb of their own anyway.
It's
until someone picks them up.
used for somebody who's like injured.
Yeah, injured or they're like stuck in space. It's a way that they can survive the elements of space. But anyways, number 17 is called the Belcher's gland. Oh no, sorry. Becher's gland, also known as the poison bite.
It's acid breath that eats through even metal. And it gets worse for space wolves who have been imbibing in Fenrisian ale.
That's just gotta be bad. I don't feel so good. Don't throw up! It'll put a hole in the ship. Anyways, number 18. This is probably the most important one. The progenoid gland, also known as the gene seeds.
These are the Space Marines' genetic connection to their fathers. These are the important ones.
Mm-hmm. And 19, which is last but certainly not least, we have the black carapace, or interface.
You know, the thing that you connect their suits to. Their armor. You know?
And that one, if I recall right anyways, it's actually not attached to them, correct? This is like an under exosuit that does attach to them, but they can take that off. Like carapace?
No, the carapace itself is part of them.
But well done, Yuxin. I think we got through that pretty quick. What were these extra three?
Well, that 3 extra gene seeds for the Primaris are the sinew coils, the Magnificat.
It's a magnificent cat, yes.
And the Belisarian furnace.
Okay. What do they do?
Now, the sinew coils, also known as the steel within. The Space Marine sinews, tendons, and ligaments are reinforced with durametallic coil cables that contract with incredible force, dramatically magnifying the subject's strength beyond that of a regular Space Marine, and giving another layer of interior defense, which greatly increases their durability. So it just popped in my mind is, so they added springs to it, That's what pops in my mind.
Honestly, it sounds a lot like what was it called? The one that they did, one of the first ones that they did. The osmodula. The growth hormones, and you added steel to the bones. Instead of doing it to the bones, though, they added it to the muscles themselves. It's kind of interesting. But what is the second one? What does the Magnificent Cat do?
The Magnificat, they're known as the Amplifier. This small thumbnail-sized lobe is inserted into the brain's core. The implant secretes hormones that increases the body's growth functions while also intensifying its advanced systems, especially the osmodula and biscopia. In truth, this implant is but half of the true dual-valve immortus gland, the God Maker, which the Emperor made for the Primarchs. Belisarius Cawl was able to build the dextrophic lobe, the right half, but discovered that information on the Centarius, or the left half, had been wholly eradicated by an unknown force. The third is the Belisarian Furnace, also known as the Revitalizer. This dormant organ connects to both hearts. In times of extreme stress or trauma, it expels self-manufactured chemicals similar to combat stems that also aid in regeneration. After activation, the gland will fall dormant again, taking some time to build itself up for activation once more. While information is scarce on when this implant normally occurs, it appears to lack its own phase, instead implanted with either the sinew coils, Magnificat, or both. But none of this would have taken place if it were not for the Sang Primus Portum, a device that held potent genetic material originally harvested from the Primarchs themselves. That Archmagos Cawl was able to create these biotechnical miracles. Raised in what became known as the Ultima Founding, the Primaris Marines were deployed across the galaxy during the Indominus Crusade by Gilman and Cawl after the opening of the Great Rift. They were used as reinforcements for existing chapters of Astartes, or to found all new chapters comprised solely of Primaris Space Marines. Now, as the Indominus Crusade penetrated deeper into the galaxy, Archmagos Cawl kept his automaton workers on overdrive, risking meltdowns with their accelerated speeds. Locked deep in the labyrinthine holds of Zar Quaesitor, thousands of Primaris Space Marines, some comprising entirely new chapters and others designated as reinforcements for existing ones, were awakened out of stasis and made ready to join the fray. On battle-scarred Rin's world, the rival of the Indominus Crusade broke the demonic legions of the demon prince Raxor. After the fighting was done, the Crimson Fists marveled at the return of Rabute Gilman, but were even more grateful for the arrival of the Primaris Space Marines bearing their own heraldry. Here were warriors whose genetic composition was closer to their own Primarch Rogel Dorn than had ever before existed.
Real quick, anyways, who's their chapter master again?
Pedro Cantor.
Right. Is he now a Primaris?
I don't know. But at this time, wasn't there like only a couple dozen of them anyways? So of course they'd be like, yes, more men, yes.
There was Pedro, Luis, Juan, and Fernando. That was all that was left.
And Cortez.
Okay, I'll go ahead and check real quick anyways. Yeah, continue.
For his raw material, Cawl had selected warriors of Terra and had taken them only a few generations after the original Imperial Fist had been created by the Emperor. Indeed, some had been held in stasis since the days of the Great Crusade. A few of the Primaris Space Marines could recall having seen Rogel Dorn himself.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. But just a heads up here, anyways. Pedro Cantor is in fact a Primaris Space Marine now, thanks to the whole Rubicon thing, which I think you're going to be talking about later, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. But there
Anyway.
you go.
Many chapter masters welcomed their Primaris brethren into their ranks, accepting the new reinforcements gladly. Others, though, viewed these new creations with suspicion or outright hostility, claiming that the Emperor's work should never have been meddled with by mere mortals. Fortunately, the emissaries Imperatus, a shield host of the Adeptus Custodes, the elite bodyguard of the Master of Mankind, stepped forward to intercede, stating that the gift that was the Primaris Marines was the will of the Emperor. As heralds of the Golden Throne, they had accompanied Gilman's crusade, many of them taking to the air as Virtus Praetors, the quicker to deliver messages of reinforcement to the embattled Space Marines. The presence of the Adeptus Custodes also ensured that even the most traditional chapters accepted the Primaris warriors into their ranks. One does not decline a gift from the Emperor's own hand, after all. Again and again, the Crusaders watched the same tale unfold. When those of the Ultima Founding were brought before their chapters, it was like a meeting of brothers separated at birth. Arriving at a time of great darkness and upheaval, the new transhuman warrior's strength was welcomed. Such unusual reunions were repeated on many Astartes worlds, including Chagoris, Ultramar, and Baal, where the Crusade arrived even as the proud sons of Sanguinius were making what they thought would be their last stand against the Tyranids of Hive Fleet Leviathan, during what became known as the Devastation of Baal, of which we have discussed many of times.
In fact, I talked about anyways where on the bonus box that I talked about where the first time that Dante actually sees Primaris Space Marines, he recognizes instantly anyways that they are the sons of Sanguinius, but he's never seen them before. He's like, why are you bigger? What is this weird emblems that you have? You know, you're definitely a son of Sanguinius. So like you said anyways, it's definitely very much of like a meeting of brothers, but they definitely can tell the difference too.
Yeah.
Not just simply because they're taller.
And even though we mentioned before that the gene seeds are more resistant, they're entirely resistant to the different curses.
Yeah, they found that out actually, especially with the Blood Angels.
Yes. The what was it? The high priest.
I think it was the ones that ended up bulking up the flesh tears. Ended up finding out that they still suffer from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all still anyways kind of have those weird quirks of the Primarchs, which makes sense because I mean you're still using the genetic code of each one of the fathers. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, I just figured anyways I might mention that. Because it is the Devastation of Baal. And don't worry, guys, I still will be doing that speech. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Along with, pretty soon you should just be going, okay, this is from this page of this, because you've gone over it so much.
I mean, the Devastation of Baal is actually a very important part of not only the Indominus Crusade, but the history of the Blood Angels itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's worth going over, I guess. That's probably the best way of describing it. Because, I mean, it was literally all of the chapters of the Blood Angels all showed up. They were almost Legion again. They barely held Baal, which kind of tells you something about them Tyranid bug guys. But, sorry, carry on, sir.
Yeah. Despite cleaving a wide path through the darkness that beset the Imperium, the Indominus Crusade began to break down. When the vast holds of the Tsar Quaesitor were at last emptied, Archmagos' call departed, for he had many more secret vaults to activate in order to complete the Ultima Founding. Of course, because...
what other MacGuffin things can he pull off?
Yeah.
How about flight? For Primaris Space Marines? Sure.
Not for the regular Marines, just the Primaris ones.
My guys. We're now doing a Spider-Man Astartes.
And they all have
Whatever.
Order 66 built into them, right?
Right. Every one of them has to have that Order 66. Sorry. Go ahead.
And we find out that he does, in fact, worship Vashtor. Once deployed, the new Primaris chapters, such as the Rift Stalkers or the Umbral Knights, remained after the initial conflicts were won, seeking to consolidate the Crusades' gains. In many cases, they did this by establishing their own new chapter planets. In this way, the Crusade not only freed worlds from the tyranny of the Dark Gods, but also strengthened their defenses against further attacks that were sure to come. Early during the muster of the Indominus Crusade fleets, specialized task forces were assembled and sent racing out into the galaxy, known as Torchbearers. They were tasked to make contact with specific Firstborn Space Marine chapters and to furnish them with the Primarch's Gift, the name given to the genetic technologies and magi biologists required for those chapters to create their own Primaris Marine Battle Brothers. Torchbearer task forces typically comprised small, fast, heavily armed craft and were garrisoned with the mixture of Sisters of Silence, Adeptus Custodes of the Emissaries Imperatus, and Grey Shield Primaris Battle Brothers of the same genetic line as the chosen chapter to be reinforced. These escorts ensured that their precious cargo reached its destination regardless of threats and impediments, and was put swiftly to use by its recipients. Some chapters were assigned torchbearers because they were known to be nearing, if not already, past the brink of extinction. Task forces dispatched to these so-called waning chapters had first to locate them and determine if they still fought on in the Emperor's name, then begin the replenishment of their strength if they did. If tragedy had already overtaken the waning chapter, the new chapter master was selected from among the Grey Shields, and the chapter was re-established, their first duty often to exact revenge upon whatever foe had laid their forebears low. For the task force sent to locate the Angel's Revenant, it appeared at first as though the latter would be their duty. The chapter's homeworld of Lebethra had been cracked open by the Necrons of the Maynarch dynasty in order to engulf the original Angel's Revenant in lava. No trace could be found of those scattered battle brothers who had avoided the tragedy. Yet, even as torchbearer forces set down upon the riven, airless carcass of Lebethra and prepared to declare the waning chapter extinct, their Auspex and Fox networks picked up faint signs of ferocious battle taking place deep beneath the planet's surface. Battle for dead Lebethra against the Necron menace. Of the alliance between the Torchbearers and the last vengeful remnants of the Angel's Revenant, and of the chapter's rebirth amidst the furnace of war. Suffice to say that the Primarch's Gift ushered in a new era for the Angels of Lebethra. Some Torchbearer task forces were assigned to chapters who, for reasons of doctrine, genetic heritage, or historical circumstance, were expected to resist the bequest of the Primarch's Gift. It was unacceptable, but not unbelievable to Gilliman and his advisors that the most traditionalist or headstrong firstborn chapters might wholly reject the Primaris gene tech or the intrusive presence of the Adeptus Mechanicus Magi who accompanied it. In such cases, the task force's complement of Adeptus Custodes was typically larger than average. Their presence left no doubt that this boon came by the grace of the Emperor himself, and that to resist its implementation was to deny the will of the Master of Mankind. Just such torchbearer forces were dispatched to locate the tripartite fleet elements of the Sons of Medusa.
By the way, the Sons of Medusa, we'll have to do like a little short box on them. They're actually a really interesting chapter. I mean, we haven't talked about the Iron Hands yet. They're successor chapter of the Iron Hands, but they're just they're as close to rogue Space Marines as you can get, while still being loyal. Yeah, they're this is probably the best way to describe it. I mean, we've talked about like the Carcrodons being kind of out there. The Sons of Medusa are like really out there. But anyways,
still not as bad as the Marines Malevolent, though, right?
Okay, no, they're not like the Marines Malevolent, where they're just like, you know, F humanity. We'll kill everybody. They're not necessarily that. They're literally even more. They're kind of even more so, where it's just like, you're not a son of Medusa. Well, you're in my way, kind of thing. They have many a times, anyways, as we've always joked, you know, like what Space Marines would do if there's like an imp down like a hallway. There's an imp. There's a gun sitting there with an Osta Militarum guy, and he's trying to shoot all the cultists in front of him. What each Space Marine behind them would do. You know, we've kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
Where, like, the Black Templar would like step over the guy, you know, kind of thing, or step on the guy as he's charging forwards.
Yeah.
The Marine Malevolent, anyways, would just gun everybody down, you know, kind of thing. Well, if there were Marines Malevolent behind those guys, they would have gunned everybody down, including the Space Marine. All in the name of the Emperor. They're depending on which son of Medusa you run into, though. Another one might, in fact, anyways, pick up the guy as the Ostra Militarum, put him on his back, so that he could still like shoot on top of his head, like put the stationary gun on top of his head, and then charge forward. Like I said, they're weird. They're depending on which one you run into, you go all the way from Salamander to Marines Malevolent, all in one chapter.
Because they have different clans.
I know. They are just weird. Like I said, we'll definitely have to do a Vox on them at some point. But sorry, go ahead. What did this Torchbearers group show up and do?
Well, resistance was predicted from their 3 war clans: Lycosis, Megara, and Atropos. The gene seed used to fashion their Primaris Marine reinforcements came from that of their parent chapter, the Iron Hands, and the internecine savagery of the Miore Schism had left no love lost between them and the Sons of Medusa. Good night.
Yeah, also, did I fail to mention anyways, they hate their original group. Yeah, they can't stand the Iron Hands. There's a couple of schisms that take place anyways with the Sons of Medusa. It's, like I said, we will have to do a Vox in and of themselves with the Sons of Medusa. They are really fascinating, actually. But, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Why do you hate us so much? Well, there was this war at this time. It's like, we weren't even there. We weren't part of it.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, but yeah, it's... Anyways. Sorry, continue, sir.
In the event, the task force sent to locate the Lycosis war clan had the easiest duty. By the time they had rushed to the aid of the Sons of Medusa in their battle against the orcs of the Travis cluster, and fought alongside them for a full Terran year, the martial bonds they forged superseded all other barriers. Those torchbearers assigned to the Megara and Atropos fleets, however, faced much greater challenges that went far beyond resistance from the Sons of Medusa themselves. Many torchbearer task forces were assigned to those chapters simply too far distant, or else too mobile in nature, for the main thrust of the Indominus Crusade fleets to reach. Many such chapters had homeworlds that lay beyond the royally mass of the Great Rift. Others, including such illustrious names as the Ultramarines, the Black Templars, and the Raven Guard, inhabited regions far from Terra or were scattered across the void of Borg crusading fleets. Torchbearers assigned to these chapters employed every asset that might lend them speed and efficiency. Most boasted multiple cadres of Silent Sisters, their presence intended to quell the most ferocious of warp storms, and aid their comrades in weathering an often desperate passage through the madness of Cicatrix Maledictum.
Real quick, before we move on, I know you want to talk about, like, for instance, passing the Rubicon and whatnot, but I think we need to take a little bit of time here anyways to talk about the Grey Shields. Are we cool with that?
Sure.
Okay. Now, the Grey Shields, also known anyways as, I believe anyways, the Unknown Sons, or the Untold Sons. Is it the Untold Sons? Or the Unnumbered Sons? Yes, alright. It was an unknown something. But, so, during the Ultima founding, you had two different groups, pretty much. You had the Torchbearers, which were the Primaris Marines that were wholly descended from a single one of the 9 original Loyalist Primarchs genes lines, which composed about half the founding. These were the guys that kind of, like Yuxin was just saying anyways, these are the guys that were designed for going and helping the other groups, the other first founding chapters. The other half of the Primaris Marines were divided up into 9 armies the size of massive Space Marine legions of the Horus Heresy era. Now, unlike those legions, however, these formations were created from a mixture of Primaris Marines belonging to all 9 of the Loyalist gene lines. Each of these Primaris Marines wore the livery in the Progenitor Primarch's first founding chapter, and each Unnumbered Sons Legion was further divided into chapter-sized units of 1,000 Primaris Space Marines. These units were further divvied up into companies and squads, each of which was a mixed formation made up of all the different gene lines. Guilliman had ordered the Unnumbered Sons to fight as mixed gene line units in the hope that the Primaris Marines would learn how to deal with the differing temperaments and personalities of their brethren from the other Loyalist lineages in a way that eluded their ancient predecessors. The Lord Commander believed this might help prevent the eruption of the inter-chapter disputes that had so plagued the Adeptus Astartes, even after the great betrayals of the Horus Heresy. The Unnumbered Sons, or Grey Shields as we've come to know and love them, proved to be a potent force during the course of the Guilliman's Indominus Crusade to retake the Imperium of Mankind from the ascendant forces of chaos and the myriad Xenos assaults that threatened to consume it. However, as the Crusade wore on, their numbers began to dwindle, both as the result of battlefield attrition and because large numbers of the forces were increasingly detached to other duties on the orders of Guilliman himself. Whenever the Crusade encountered embattled chapters of the Firstborn Astartes, the Lord Commander ordered members of the Unnumbered Sons of the same gene lines to become replacements for the depleted chapter's losses. As such, members of the Unnumbered Sons, who were scions of Guilliman himself, could become new Aurora Chapter Primaris Marines, or Doom Eagle Primaris Marines, or even replacement battle brothers for the Ultramarines themselves. Primaris Space Marine scions of Rogel Dorn became new members of the Black Templar, the Imperial Fist, and so on for each original Loyalist Astartes lineage encountered as the Indominus Crusade pushed outwards from Terra. At other times, Guilliman simply created whole new chapters of Primaris Space Marines from the Unnumbered Sons formations to meet a given need, such as the defense of a strategically important Imperial world. However, these new chapters were not fixed and composed of only a single Primarch's lineage like their firstborn counterparts. Now, by the time of the Battle of Racos, at the end of the first major phase of the Indominus Crusade, to stabilize the Imperium Sanctus, only 20,000 Primaris Astartes remained within the depleted ranks of the Unnumbered Sons. The fight to defeat the Chaos forces emanating from the ancient warp rifts of the wilderness space known as the Pit of Racos proved to be the last campaign of the Unnumbered Sons. For at its successful conclusion, Guilliman disbanded the remaining Grey Shield armies as he moved to intervene in the Plague Wars of Ultramar. Now, while these Grey Shields were very effective, Guilliman believed he was forced to disband the Unnumbered Sons by political necessity. There had been rumblings from his opponents in the Terran court that he was a hypocrite for engaging in legion building, the raising of new Space Marine legions that had been forbidden by his own Codex Astartes. Guilliman had no intention of allowing such charges to serve as an excuse to weaken his authority over the High Lords of Terra or the Imperial nobility. And so, with the Imperium Sanctus stabilized following the Battle of Racos, he had felt the time had come to disband the Unnumbered Sons and show that the organization of the Adeptus Astartes into individual chapters was still preferred structure for the Space Marines. Some were formed into new Primaris Space Marine chapters, such as
The Knights of Cerulean, the Praetors of Ultramar, and the Wolf Spear,
which was tasked with defending the Pit of Rakos. The remaining unnumbered sons were dispersed to already established Space Marine chapters, where they would take the lessons they had learned fighting alongside Astartes of different lineage into units descended only from their own Primarchs. Now, before we carry on, I got a question for you, Yuxin. Why didn't the Emperor do this? I mean, why keep his son's lines pure? Why wouldn't he encourage cross-trade? I mean, on a large scale, like Gilliman did here. I mean, as we know anyways, there were, like, for instance, like, little groups that, like, would go back and forth between them, but normally, anyways, it wasn't, like, whole legions.
Okay, so the main reason I can think is he wanted the legions to be separated into specific roles. Hence why, for example, he had the Space Wolves as the executioners, he had the Imperial Fists as the
Defenders.
Yeah.
Siege Masters for the Iron Warriors.
I believe you got it all in one, but I think there's also another reason for it. I think he looked at the Astartes program very much like he did the Thunder Warriors. So by the time everything was done anyways, he needed a way to get rid of them. And if you're going to have them anyways complement each other, that's going to make them far harder to get rid of. You're making them stronger. We don't want to make them stronger. We want to make them go away. Kind of thing. I think it's a combination of the two. I wholeheartedly agree with you anyways on your aspect. I think it's just on the back end of it anyways. There was also this, we kind of want to get rid of them at the end of this. As opposed to Gilliman, who really doesn't.
Yeah. Like anybody right now, if the Emperor woke up now, he probably wouldn't be going, yeah, let's get rid of him. And people are like, oh crap.
Why don't we have
increase them?
Yeah. Yeah. That and okay, so also before we move on anyways, the Rubicon, which the Rubicon is actually really cool. But the other thing that I will say anyways, these unnumbered sons, the Gray Shields, the way they actually fight with each other is pretty cool. I've just been reading some of the stuff anyways of Guy Haley's work, and the Gray Shields, the fact anyways that you literally have a Blood Angel with a Space Wolf. And just the way anyways that they end up talking with each other is just always just kind of entertaining. It's always entertaining anyways when you throw a Space Wolf in with all these like prim and proper, kind of like Astartes kind of thing. And I'm not saying specifically the Blood Angel, but it's like, for instance, there's also an Imperial Fist and an Iron Hand, and kind of thing. So it's very interesting anyways, just the way that they actually communicate with each other. They become significantly less like stuck up. It's probably the best way to describe it. Because it's almost like a realization, hey, there are other people out there and they don't all act exactly like I do. But we all have a common goal. Kind of thing. Funny how that actually works out to be a strength. For those of you anyways in Terran 42's world, maybe figure that out too. We all like apple pie. As long as anyways we figure out anyways to make the apple pie the right way, we're all cool. I want mine with cinnamon on it. Blasphemy! Yeah, we can. Yeah, don't get me wrong. There are some like I like zucchini on my apple pie. Maybe get rid of that guy. Call him a heretic. Yeah, as long as
no.
Yeah. So, like I said, one of the things I like about the unnumbered sons or the Gray Shields is the fact, anyways, that all these guys, while they have different concepts of how to do what they want to do, they all have the same organization aspect, anyways, of what they want to accomplish, which is to kill all of the enemies of the Imperium. And quite frankly, anyways, they become actually their own band of brothers, so to speak, and they become significantly better, I think, anyways, as a legion than any of the other ones do. I think, anyways, quite frankly, if they had some Gray Shields and that would actually, okay, so before we move on, I do have an interesting question for you. So in the 31st millennium, what if the Emperor of Mankind decided to, okay, so he's got all the regular Space Marines, the original 18, right? And then he decides, you know what? We're going to build a final legion. They're not going to have a Primarch. We're going to give them, like a cool Duke or something like that. I don't know. We'll have somebody in charge anyways. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take units from all these different legions and make their own legion, like Grey Shields. What do you think would have happened with them anyways at the Horus Heresy?
Depends on how long it had been around.
Let's say it has been around since Perturabo. Perturabo, I believe, was, I think, the 9th Primarch found.
Okay.
So the aspect of it was around for about half of the Great Crusade.
Then there's one of two things that could happen. Either A, they would fight together kind of like, would be kind of like how they had the Shattered Fleet, where it's just like one group that's stuck together instead of just
right. But that's after the Horsey becomes very apparent.
Other factor would be it start to, depending on how things went, it could just tear itself apart if they still had some allegiances to the original legions.
Well, okay. So first off, yeah, okay. I think we're thinking the same thing, and at least for two of them, two of the thoughts I was thinking of. First off, is if they don't have a Primarch, one of the reasons why you had the 9 heretic Astarte groups, anyways, really fall that way is because they were more loyal to their Primarchs than they were the Imperial, right?
Right.
So if you've got a group of Grey Shields, they don't have a Primarch. I mean, they do, but they're fighting somewhere else. So that whole allegiancy thing, anyways, is just gone. So to me, anyways, it's more along the lines of, do they follow their commander? If they have a very sturdy commander, anyways, do they follow their commander? Or do they follow if their commander gets swayed by Horus? And quite frankly, I don't see Horus actually really going after the dude because, quite frankly, he's not even a Primarch. Why would I care? It's just a bunch of goons out there. I mean, that's kind of the way, anyways, that I figure Horus would look at it. He might be smart enough to go, hey, well, they're actually pretty good, kind of thing. But in that case, and if Horus actually didn't try to move them forward, anyways, then therefore, anyways, I think they would push more towards the loyalist side. In which case, anyways, like you said, they definitely would have worked very much like the scattered legions after the drop site massacre, except for they would still be Legion, not like Bob, Bill, and Phil. That kind of thing. Yeah, it was be Legion. If that was the case, so that's the first thing, anyways, like you were saying. The second one would be if they actually did all fall, anyways. This is the one that you didn't talk about, anyways. They all fall to chaos, which would be really interesting because then you would have, like, for instance, Space Wolves, the Chaos Space Wolves, which would be really weird. Jamming with World Eaters, kind of thing. But the third one that you were talking about, I absolutely also think, anyways, is like, what if because either that or they would just tear themselves apart because, I don't think that one would actually necessarily take the case, just simply because I think, anyways, if they're all cohesive in one unit and they haven't been living with their Primarchs, the loyalty to their Primarchs, anyways, wouldn't be as strong as it is with the original ones. Now, getting back to what I was saying before, they would work like the scattered legions after the drop site massacre, but they would be legions still. So how much do you think, anyways, if they went that way, anyways, how much do you think that would have affected the Horus Heresy?
I think it would have affected it a lot, depending on, of course, where they were. Because if they were, out in the boonies somewhere, it's have fun getting back.
True.
But it'll be over by the time you're back.
Kind of like what Horus did with the lion. Yeah, okay. But other than that, anyways, I mean, if they were still, within, reach of everything, anyways, how do you think that would have affected... I mean, you're talking about an entire legion of Space Marines, anyways, a completely new legion of Space Marines that, as we've already found, anyways, in the 42nd millennium, are incredibly effective. because they work as a cohesive unit.
I'm not sure how it would affect things. It would
Part
lean
of-
more towards the Imperium, but
Yeah, I think
don't
part
know
of me
how
thinks
much.
that they would be very impactful as a Legion. Another part of me, though, thinks anyways, like, for instance, Dorn, especially Dorn would think of this. But the aspect of they would disband the Legion as the Horus Heresy started, and all the Loyalists would pull from that Legion anyways, pull all their boys back so they could strengthen their own numbers. And then the people that weren't anyways, well, heresy. And just kill them off.
So in other words, what ended up happening is you would have it broken apart, where some of them would become chaos, becoming like, yeah, you just tried to kill us off just because we happen to used to be part of it.
I could definitely see the Imperium making that mistake. Yes. They have done it a few times.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they'd actually kept it as a cohesive unit, I bet anyways that would have been actually a tipping point for the Imperium, and who knows, the Emperor might have actually fixed his Webway project. But like I said, this is all hearsay. It never happened because they didn't have the Grey Shields back in the day. But I just
The
thought it was kind of
Emperor
a
would
fun
never make
anyways thought process that would have been kind of interesting. But moving on, the Rubicon. Let's talk about
Yeah.
the Rubicon, shall we?
Yeah. Now, before we take off, we should discuss those of the original foundings that didn't like these new Space Marines and the Rubicon. Now, while the Primaris began to merge with many chapters of the Space Marines, the question began to develop. Can a first founding Astartes become a Primaris Space Marine? The question was a logical one after all. Why wouldn't you want to make your warriors faster, stronger, and smarter? Also, the question was it morally right to do so, and would the transformed Space Marine still retain his personality and experience?
Wait a minute. Morally right? The Imperium's thinking about morality right now? With
This is one of those cases where they're just like, what way can we figure out to try to mess things up and delay things? How about morality? Yeah, let's go with that one.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking anyways of all the really, pardon my French, shitty things that the Imperium has done, and this is the time where they stop and go, well, what's the morality of the situation?
Like I said,
It's
it's the
laughable.
latest thing we can use to hopefully slow things down here.
Okay, so you're thinking anyways that this isn't really a thought of morality. This is just I don't know if this is a good idea. kind of thing. Okay, why isn't it a good idea? Morally, it's unethical? Well, I didn't think about that. Oh, thank God.
Oh yeah, like what we've done to the Space Marines to create them to begin with was moral. Like, yes.
It's just the Imperium has always been, anyways, the needs outweigh morality. That's the way the Imperium works, right? The needs of the many outweigh the few. The needs of what needs to take place here, anyways, dictate everything, including morality. And this is the stone that they decided, anyways. Nope, I'm putting my foot down on this one. But very much, anyways, it's like, anyways, the Space Marine, anyways, like, well, let's think about the morality of this. Meanwhile, anyways, the people next to him is like, please, sir, can we have some more food? You have plenty in your stores. Nope, we're contemplating the morality of whether or not we should become bigger badasses. But I'm starving along with my kids. Shut up, you.
Well, I think actually part of this was actually brought forth by I think one of the cases when we looked it up, when we covered the Ultramarines, wasn't the Space Marines themselves so much as the governing council of whatever. And that's why Marty Cal was the first one to go, okay, I'll cross the Rubicon.
We're going to kind of get ahead of ourselves here. Yes, Marty Cal was the first guy, but it was also, I think actually was more along the lines, it shouldn't have been a moral question. It was more along the lines of, I believe, what is it? It was like 65% failure rate or something along those lines.
61.6%.
61.6 failure rate. So it was more along the lines of people going, whoa, 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 whoa. You're saying anyways that we could lose 60 out of 100 or 61 out of 100 Space Marines if we try this? Maybe it's not worth it. To me, that makes more sense. It's like
what way can we figure out to say it that it isn't like that? Moral. It's not
moral compass. I wholeheartedly agree with you. This was definitely, anyways, we're just going to throw morality in there to see if we can slow things down. Because, I mean, we have said many a times, anyways, not in so few words, but the Imperium doesn't give one crap about the morality of any situation.
And the interesting thing is that they set up this Rubicon as you volunteer to do it.
Right.
It's not a mandatory thing, too.
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead and anyways explain what the Rubicon is.
Well, like I said, Chapter Master Marty Cal volunteered to be the first test subject of the Rubicon Primaris, which proved to be a success. This put an end to many debates about the procedure, as Calgar was still the warrior he always was, but now had the new strength and abilities of a Primaris. Any Space Marine who undergoes the Rubicon Primaris must prepare for an extensive and agonizing operation. It is conducted by many surgeons and medical servitors who will cut open the Space Marine from his crown to his heels. His ribcage will then be cracked apart, and at the climax of the operation, the Space Marine's healing physiology suppressed to the point that his life will slip away. All this is done so that the 3 extra organs the Primaris contains can be safely implanted within the Space Marine's body. Now, thankfully, by the last years of the Plague Wars, the procedure had become much safer, and it was considered unusual if high-ranking firstborn chose not to undergo the Rubicon Primaris. The people who have crossed the Rubicon would be the Black Templars High Marshal Helbrick and Grimaldus, Chapter Master Dante and Chief Librarian Mephiston of the Blood Angels, Supreme Grand Master Azrael of the Dark Angels, the Imperial Fist's 3rd Company Captain Tor Garadon, the former Raven Guard Chapter Master Kaven Shrike, the Salamander's 3rd Company Captain Adrax Agaton, the Space Wolves Ragnar Blackmane, and then for the Ultramarines you had, as mentioned before, Marty Cal, and then also Chief Librarian Vero Tigerius, 4th Company Captain Uriel Ventress, and of course, the 2nd Company Lieutenant Demetrian Titus. And finally, you have the White Scars Master of the Hunt and 3rd Company Captain Corsero Khan.
Okay. Before we leave, you just mentioned a boatload of different people that I think we've talked about almost every single one of them. We haven't talked about Agaton, Shrike. And, okay, I've talked about Tor Garadon. I don't think you have. I think we missed him when we did Imperial Fist. But the rest of them, I think we pretty much talked about. But we do have, anyways, we have 6 Space Marine chapters that they're chapter master, technically, of the original 9 that do not actually have a Primaris Space Marine as their chapter master. So I figured we'd go through these anyways because of kind of the example of why they aren't. And starting with the Space Wolves. Now, you mentioned anyways, Ragnar is technically a Primaris Space Marine. It's not technically, he is. But it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth because I liked Ragnar. The Space Wolves wholeheartedly, anyways, have a very big... A lot of it has to do with Gilliman. Oh. Now, remember, anyways, back in the day when he started the whole Codex Astartes and everybody had to split up all their guys, and Lehman Russ told him, anyways, you can suck rocks. Yeah, that's kind of kept with the Space Wolves. When Gilliman showed up to Fenris, They all saw him coming, and his name, anyways, he's known as the Legion Breaker. And that's what Gilliman's known as. So they all were very much just kind of like, yeah, we'll see what he has to say. Is he here to kill us? Nope. Cool. Then we'll just listen to him. We'll nod and smile and let him go on his way with his little custody friends, and then we'll do what we want. Which is kind of what they did. Well, they've been incredibly distrustful of the Primaris. Do they have Primaris Space Marines? Yes, they do.
Yes.
Do they like having Primaris Space Marines? Yeah.
Well, some of the chapters that were added to them, I should say chapters.
Chapter, I think. It's one, isn't it?
Yeah, they had issues with, but that was because it was raised separate from, the Fenris traditions. And so there's that whole cultural issue.
This is like Space Wolf 2. Here's some Fenrisian ale. What the hell is that stuff? Blasphemy.
You expect me to drink this?
I will kill you if you do not drink that mug of mead. Oh, okay. I mean, you could try. I'm significantly taller than you. I've been around longer than you have, boy. And I know Bjorn. We'll wake him up and see what he thinks. Okay, I'll drink it.
And he is much taller than you.
So yeah, with the Space Wolves, anyways, it's very tongue in cheek, anyways. What we've been talking about, but yes, there is still kind of this very much distrustfulness of the Primaris. They have accepted them. Doesn't mean, anyways, they're super happy about it. The next group would be the Salamanders. What have you read, anyways, about the Salamanders? And so Tushan is not a. Also, anyways, like I said, Logan Grimnar. I don't think Logan Grimnar will ever be a Primaris Space Marine, but that's just me. Tushan, on the other hand, is also not. And, well, first off, anyways, dear God, Euxin, if he became a Primaris Space Marine, can you imagine how big that boy would be?
Well, it's kind of like...
He's already huge.
Imagine if Tiberos became a Primaris. The Red Wake would no longer be awake anymore. He would be a... typhoon or tsunami.
If Tushan actually took the Rubicon anyways, he'd probably be able to look Gilliman in the eye. Let's put it that way. Yeah. He's a big fella. But what have you read anyways about the Salamanders? What do they think of the Primaris Space Marines?
The Salamanders like them, but they're still a little bit apprehensive about them. Part of that is because, once again, it comes back to this cultural thing. They don't have the same sort of cultural background. Very much like because the Salamanders, well, the ones that aren't Primaris, have grown up with this very family mindset. Yeah. Because they're actually even able to spend time with their non-Space Marine family from time to time.
They live amongst the peoples. Yes. Of Nocturne.
Meanwhile, these new groups that have come in have not.
They've lived with Ultramarines.
And other Space Marines. And so they don't have that, the same sort of viewpoints, let's just put it that way. So they're hopeful that over time, they can mesh together and work just fine and everything goes well. But still a bit apprehensive because of,
All right. Well, the next group would be the Imperial Fist. Now, nobody ever remembers who the Japanese of the Imperial Fist is. That's why they didn't, originally anyways, they didn't like him at all. They couldn't stand him because they thought anyways it's like heresy kind of aspect. But as time has continued to move on, they've seen the benefits of the Primaris Space Marine as being faster, stronger, that whole thing. So it's more of they're like dipping their toe into the cold water, so to speak, of the river. At this point, anyways, they're like up to their knee. It's the point when they get to the gonads, anyways, that it might be difficult. But at this point, anyways, they're kind of okay with it. They're just kind of just checking it out. And what about the Raven Guard? That's another group. Now, like you said anyway, Shrike was originally a chapter master. He's no longer the chapter master.
Yeah.
So their new chapter master has not become a Primaris Space Marine. But what does the Raven Guard think of the Primaris?
So they're split on the subject, but it's different from the whole cultural aspect.
Oh, really?
It's more of the fact that the size aspect. as we know, the Raven Guard, their whole spiel is covert strikes.
I'm the sneaky one. Yeah.
So you go from somebody being 7 feet tall to all of a sudden being
10.
That's a little bit harder to hide. You know, that extra 3 feet tall and who knows how wide. It's a little bit harder to hide.
Yeah, I actually, them anyways, I get more than the rest of them anyways. It's like, thank you anyways for the gift, but can you make them smaller?
I don't need them as tall.
I could see the chapter master of the Raven Guard saying that to Call, and then just Call anyway slowly twitching.
No.
Because he slowly goes insane. Yeah. But yes, like you said,
he can't say that because
totally
he already is insane. What are you talking about?
With the Raven... No, he's schizophrenic or multi-personalities. Different kind of insanity. But yeah, with the Raven Guard, it kind of makes sense because they're supposed to be like the sneaky ones, the one that, you know, that's their whole shtick. Now, making anyways a giant Goliath dude anyways and going, here, enjoy this. It's like, well, thanks, but how's he going to get past enemy lines? Kind of makes it a little difficult.
He's starting to look like he's the size of an ogre. Ogrins aren't that very...
The next group would be the Iron Hands. Depending on if you're talking about just straight up the Iron Hands, they don't have a problem with them at all. They are very much
sure, whatever.
Well, especially because, anyways, this is coming from Belisarius Call. This is coming from their boys on Mars, you know, kind of thing. It's with the successor chapters, like we kind of talked about, anyways. The Sons of Medusa, they're not really all that cool with it. So mainly the Sons of Medusa. There are other ones, anyways, that don't really like it either. But the Iron Hands within themselves, anyways, is kind of cool. Oh, cool with it. I will say, anyways, I don't understand why though. Because maybe it's just because they're like, sweet, whatever, just go away, you know, kind of thing. Let us keep doing our thing. Because remember, anyways, the Iron Hands continue trying to like. They're just like the Mechanicum, anyways, or Mechanicus. They just keep removing body parts and adding it with mechanical aspects. So who cares if it's a Primaris Space Marine or not? And it's like, yes, my arm is significantly stronger. Okay, now cut it off, and I'm going to replace it with a mechanical arm. Okay, you know?
Well, so they start off as bigger.
They start off stronger, and then they do the same thing that the firstborns do, and they're going to be just as strong. Okay, whatever.
They're going to be taller.
Yeah, no, we're taller. Yes. Okay.
And there's more mass to work with here.
Right. We have more body parts we can get rid of. All right. And the last one. Okay, so the last one, anyways, to me is actually very interesting. That'd be the White Scars. Now, as we've talked about before, anyways, the White Scars, their chapter master is the wheelchair guy. He's the cripple.
Jubal Khan, I believe is what his name is.
Yes. And he got, and we actually talked about it a couple weeks ago. Anyways, it'd be interesting if he did pass the Rubicon, because either A, it'd kill him, which is what
more than likely,
but B, I'm a little bit more hopeful. Anyways, it might fix him. So, to me, anyways, that's kind of interesting. But like we said, anyways, the guy who's kind of the acting chapter master, Corsaro Khan, the what were they call him?
He actually isn't the acting chapter master, but he's just the more famous.
Who is the acting chapter master then?
The acting one is now Jubal Khan has been grooming the Khan known as Sabodin Khan, who is the captain of the first company. And he's been named Master of the War Council. And he's being groomed by Jubal Khan to be the next person. So he's also being put in charge.
Right. Well, part of that might be, anyways, like you said, anyways. So when Carcerio Khan, anyways, became a Primaris Space Marine, he went back because he met up with Gilman first, I guess. And then he went back. He's like, "Isn't this cool? I'm like 3 feet taller." And his chapter master was not happy.
It's like, you had a 61.6% chance of not surviving. This is not something I want to have promoted.
And now I'm like 33% taller. Huh? Yeah. What was discussed?
We actually 6 feet under. Huh?
Okay, so we have talked about this meeting between Carcerio Khan and Jubal Khan. No one really knows what was discussed during the time. It definitely seemed, though, anyways, that Jubal wasn't happy about him becoming a Primaris Space Marine. And because no one knows what they talked about, the White Scars in and of themselves are kind of split on it, because they see Carcerio Khan, anyways, as being one of their, great dudes, right?
Right.
I mean, he's one of our heroes. And he's a Primaris Space Marine, so why can't I? And then we have this other side, which is Jubal Khan, which is also makes sense anyways, is like, well, apparently Jubal Khan didn't like it. He is our chapter master.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't like it either. That seems to be kind of the split between the two. I might be reading this a little bit differently anyways, but what do you think?
I think that's pretty close to what it would be. Like I said, I think one of the reasons why Jubal Khan has an issue with it is because of the high mortality rate.
Right. So now here's the question anyways. When Jubal Khan goes on to the Great Unknown or the Divine Wind or becomes a Dreadnought, whatever. Hopefully it's one of the first two instead of being a Dreadnought, because it sucks being a Dreadnought. But it gets taken over by Sabodin Khan. What do you think his thoughts anyways are going to be anyways on the Primaris?
I have no idea. I would have the assumption that he would go, okay, crossing the Rubicon, not necessarily good, unless the percentage has jumped way up, and then, yeah, maybe.
Then we're okay. It's now only 33% you might die. Okay, we'll work with that. Got to think, or 25%. Yeah, okay. But picking them up, he's cool with that. Yeah. I kind of agree with you. I honestly think, anyways, one of the biggest aspects, though, and I know you talked about it anyways, about the percentage thing. I think a lot of it also had to do with the fact, anyways, that he just went ahead and did it. Yeah. Didn't ask Jubal about it. But Jubal's still supposed to be in charge. Kind of thing. So it was very much, anyways, like, you did what? Without my consent? Well, so I don't know necessarily.
Both.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more of the action that took place as opposed to the Primaris itself. So when he's gone, I think, anyways, the Primaris, anyways, moving into the White Scars will be actually a pretty smooth transition. Then again, I might be wrong about that. Well, folks, there you have it, the Primaris Space Marines, and all their wonder and interesting aspects. Join us next time as we discuss a little bit, anyways, of the antagonists of the upcoming Plague Wars, Mortarion, along with, anyways, the War of the Flies, and the most importantly, anyways, what we think of the Primaris, what we think of the Indominus Crusade so far.
Fantastic! But for those of you who enjoyed our little show, could you please be so kind as to push that subscribe, like, or follow button? If you wish to help us expand our work on 40k lore, by all means, support us by joining our membership program on our YouTube channel, Tales of Ashraka. Oh, And don't forget to purchase the Yarn Heist, sold wherever ebooks are sold. And it is spelled with a J.
Yes. And also, don't forget for you guys on YouTube anyways, please hit the hype button. That really helps the algorithm with us. Just go ahead. Think of it anyways, is if you hit the hype button, you're punching the algorithm right in the face. That's how I visualize it. And I just love, anyways, the rest of you guys just duking it right in the nose. But most importantly, have a great day. And
Until next time, this is Zekthar,
And Yuxin.
signing on.